I'm joined now by someone else who knows Mr. Trump pretty well, Ty Cobb, who served as White House attorney during the first Trump administration. Ty, great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Good to be with you, my favorite.
Great to be with you. You just heard what Ambassador Bolton had to say. Do you think his warning seems realistic?
Oh, it could be. On the other hand, I don't think Gaetz gets confirmed. I don't think Gaetz likely makes it even to a hearing before he's withdrawn. But we have all that to see as it unfolds. I do think you cannot you can't overstate the seriousness of this nomination. It shows such contempt for the American people and such contempt for the Justice Department. Matt Gaetz is not qualified by character, ethics, experience, training, or skill to run the Justice Department. I don't think there's anybody in America who's confused about that, except maybe Lindsey Graham. And I think it's very unfortunate that we have to, deal with this. Maybe he was thrown out there to make some of these other nominations, like RFK to be the head of HHS. I guess Jeffrey Dahmer was unavailable. But this is just silly season, and it's going to be a very tough slog. There's a statue out in front of the National Archives with an inscription that says, "Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty." I think that's never been truer in our time, and I think it's all hands on deck right now.
Well, I want to talk to you about RFK. I'll ask you a question about that. Sticking on Gaetz for a moment, though, let's talk about the potential implications. Sure. Senator Richard Blumenthal, a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, is calling on the Justice Department to provide the findings of its investigation into Matt Gaetz. Let me play a little bit of that for you, Ty. I'll get your reaction on the other side.
The Department of Justice has to come clean with the American people, with its investigative findings and the reasons why it decided against prosecution in connection with those sex trafficking and other serious federal violations directly relevant to his appointment to a federal law enforcement post. So the House Ethics Committee and the Department of Justice have to provide relevant information.
Ty, do you agree with Senator Blumenthal that the Justice Department should provide that information, should make it available to the public, particularly ahead of any confirmation hearing, if it gets to that?
So much of it they're lawfully prohibited from providing. Much of it is protected by grand jury secrecy, Federal Rule 6E. But there's a process through which you can file an application, a court action, to seek release under 6E. This would seem to qualify for a release where the public interest is extremely high and the case has already been declined. And historically, there are precedents under these circumstances where that information is released. I do think I think that a substantial portion of what happened there will be made available. I do think, likewise, that it's going to be very hard for the House Ethics Committee, no matter what the partisan bent of the House may be, to prevent their draft findings or conclusions from coming out. Obviously, Gaetz scurried off yesterday, resigned, and did everything he could to try to prevent those findings from becoming public and preventing action by the House Ethics Committee. But I do think that will come out, and I think it's going to take America a little time to absorb this. Not everybody knows of Matt Gaetz's sordid history of alleged sex trafficking, obstruction of justice, and other crimes. Not many people know that he was only a lawyer for a very brief time, never handled anything consequential, has zero experience. His only familiarity with the criminal justice system is as a potential defendant. That's not somebody that should be appointed Attorney General. We need this is a serious moment in American history, and we need capable people, particularly because this man is president. He needs guardrails. He had some last time. He has none so far.
Well, you lead me to my next question. We should say Matt Gaetz has denied any wrongdoing. But look, Donald Trump has vowed mass firings of DOJ attorneys. He claims they are part of a deep state. Matt Gaetz has called for the FBI to be abolished. Steve Bannon told me just yesterday Trump is going to hit the DOJ with a blowtorch, and Matt Gaetz is that torch. Do you think that that is effectively the plan if a Matt Gaetz were to get confirmed, Ty?
I think that, even when Matt Gaetz, falls by the wayside, as he will, we're not going to like whoever gets appointed as Attorney General. It's not going to be somebody of the character of Bill Sessions or the experience and intelligence of Bill Barr. It's going to be it's certainly not going to be a Merrick Garland type either. So I think we really have to be vigilant. I think it is very dangerous within the department at this stage of the game. You have several seasoned, experienced, capable people who have done heroic service in their careers for the country who are threatened by this, intentionally so. I do think Trump does intend to take a blowtorch to the DOJ, and I think certainly that's what Steve Bannon wants. I mean, Steve Bannon, who's about to go to jail again, would, if he succeeds in his pending criminal trial, is a good candidate in Trump's mind to be the head of the FBI. But hopefully he won't have any responsibilities in this administration. Although I think that's wishful thinking, as I'm sure he'll continue to have great influence. We need to watch out for people of that kind of character.
Well, let me ask you two more questions, if I can, and we're almost out of time. But sure. On immunity, the fact that the Supreme Court has ruled that Donald Trump or any president would have immunity for all official acts, what are the implications of that? Do you think President-elect Trump, and once he is sworn in, will uphold the oath?
Well, so keep in mind, it's really presumptive immunity for most of his conduct, and certainly, yes, there is an absolute immunity for most official acts as long as it's not blended. But the Supreme Court had to draw a line, and there was no line. You needed that line for a criminal prosecution, but the immunity is not as wide as people perceive. On the other hand, I think Trump believes he's absolutely immune. He's insisted he's absolutely immune, and he'll act as though he's absolutely immune unless people with courage and character step up. And I think that these hearings are going to expose senators. They're either going to come off as MAGA whores, or they're going to come off as honest brokers. And I think the stakes are incredibly high. And before I get off, please let me send a congratulations along to Kenny Delaney for his son getting all IAC honors in the District of Columbia in football.
I will pass that on to him if he missed what you just said, Ty. I'm sure he appreciates that very much. That's very kind of you. Just very quickly, yes or no, do you think RFK Jr. will get confirmed? You obviously had some very strong opinions.
Yeah, I went to college with RFK Jr. and his sister Kathleen. I would hope he would not get confirmed. He's clearly not qualified either. No matter, whether he was cooking a dog or a bear or whatever was going on. This is not somebody who is a serious person to lead a department where the safety and health of, 350 million Americans are at issue.
Yeah. All right. Ty Cobb, thank you so much, and for your nice sentiments about Ken Delaney, and really appreciate it.
Thanks, Kirsten.
Thank you. Always great to see you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or follow us on social media.